Okay, so what we have here is Unit 5 of World English 3. This is a great book that I use a lot. It's very interesting and it's very useful to use this book and go through the exercises. So this is all about survival. And I just took a few things from the book. I'll show you what it looks like in this tab. And I'll just run through the whole book so you can just see everything. I've taken little bits from the book just to use them as an example and to have some questions that we can go over, and I can show you the answers that I have given. So it's quite good. What we're going to do is go through a few things. I'm going to read this article. We'll talk a little bit about some of the exercises, and then that will be it. And I recommend using this book and also listening to the audio and watching the video clips as well. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to begin by reading this article here. One scientific study suggests that up to 2 billion different species may be alive now. That's a big number. However, since life began on Earth, scientists think at least 5 billion kinds of plants and animals have gone extinct. They know this from the discovery of many unknown kinds of fossils, dead plants or animals that have turned to stone. Why did so many species not survive? Some species died out slowly because conditions changed. Others were killed in a huge natural disaster that happened about 66 million years ago. A big rock from space, called comet, hit Earth. It killed the dinosaurs and caused terrible conditions. If humans had been alive at that time, they would have felt terror. Many species are dying out these days, so some scientists think another mass extinction is happening now. They see a relationship between human activity and these deaths. For example, they think the problem is happening because humans are causing climate change. Is there any way to rescue species that are in danger? Maybe. If a scientist found a way to stop climate change, he or she would be a hero to people who care about the planet. Okay, so some things here that I noticed are the phrase dying out. um, it's a good phrase to know. So many species are dying out, and that is somewhere in here. Every time I try to remember a phrase, I can't find it in the article. Okay, that's a big number. Uh, okay. Some species died out, so that's um, another way of saying it. Some species died out, and that just means going extinct. And then many species are dying out these days. And another good phrase is have gone extinct. Very common to say that, very useful. Many species have gone extinct. Have gone extinct. So they've gone extinct. That was something in the past. It happened to them in the past. They've gone extinct. They are now extinct. Okay. In this chapter, they talk about unreal conditions, and that's basically, or unreal conditionals. That's when you use if and might, or if and would. So you can go through and read these examples, and then I have some that I made here. If people didn't speed, there might be less accidents. You wouldn't be so tired if you slept 8 hours each night. If climate change gets worse, we might need to find another planet. So using if and might is very useful. It's just talking about uh, something you think could happen. Maybe you're not completely sure. You're not 100% sure. You're just thinking. And giving your opinion, and this is something you think might happen. If people didn't speed, there might be less accidents. This one, you wouldn't be so tired if you slept 8 hours each night. This is more certain. You're certain about something. And in this sentence, the way it's phrased, it's more like you are mm, giving someone almost like a command, like this is something a parent would say. They're kind of judging you a little bit. Like if I'm sitting at the breakfast table and I'm very tired and I have to go to school and I'm eating my cereal and I didn't do my homework, my mom could come over and look at me and say, "You wouldn't be so tired if you slept 8 hours each night, or you wouldn't get bad grades if you studied every day." So that's when you're kind of just chastising someone a little bit. You're kind of trying to push them in the right direction and you're telling them what to do. And it's kind of a nicer way of doing it, but it's something that usually someone who is like a parent would talk to their child. Okay. We have some questions here. What are fossils and how are they created? Share your knowledge. The remains of an organism preserved in rock. That's what I said. And in the article, it actually says here, unknown kinds of fossils, dead plants or animals that have turned to stone. So yeah, you've got dead plants or animals from a long time ago, and after many, many, many hundreds of thousands or millions of years, a lot of mud and dirt and lots of things get put on top of this organism and they kind of crush it. And then eventually that organism gets crushed and turned into stone. And you can see that it's preserved in this stone. Okay. When you were a child, how interested were you in fossils? Why? Like most children, I was very interested because it's so cool to hold a piece of history in your hands. There is another book that I use, and in one of the reading passages, they say they're talking about someone who's an archaeologist, and she says, I love being able to hold a piece of history in my hand. So if you're holding a fossil, you are holding a piece of history. It's very old, it's very significant, it's very cool to hold something so old, holding a piece of history. So that's a very good idiomatic phrase you can use. A living fossil, so we're going to listen, well, you can listen to the talk about living fossils. What do you think they are? A living fossil might be an organism that hasn't changed much since its very first ancestors. And I had to kind of look this up from this website. The phrase living fossil is both widely used and widely argued over. It refers to an archaic, very old species that has survived for a long time, whose anatomy harks back to an early age. That just means it's kind of like it's representing a much earlier age in the group's evolutionary tree and has remained unchanged for much of that period. So, in short, a living fossil is an organism that hasn't changed much since its very first ancestors. Things evolve, and a living fossil hasn't really evolved. You can also use it as a funny insult kind of joke thing. If you want to say, hey, my grandpa is a living fossil, that means, they're very, very old, but they're still alive. Okay. Some people think natural disasters are becoming more common. Other people think the number of natural disasters is the same, but the media reports them more. Which way of thinking is more likely to be correct? Why? I think it's difficult to know exactly which way of thinking is more correct because it seems like there are more natural disasters these days. More disasters are occurring as a result of the changing climate, but also anyone with a phone can share these events to the world. So almost every disaster gets exposed. Even without a phone, however, it is easy to see that disasters are more common. For example, this year we had a record number of forest fires in Canada, and my city was constantly covered in smoke. I think the proliferation of social media, along with the changing climate, shows that natural disasters are more common. Okay, so I think probably natural disasters are more common, but also anybody can film any type of disaster and put it on social media very easily for everyone to see. So it's hard to say. But personally, I've noticed more forest fires in Canada this year. And this year, every province, I think they were saying, had a forest fire. And I don't think that's happened before. So it seems like there are more disasters. Proliferation. Proliferation. Let's see. Proliferation. Rapid increase in numbers, a continuing threat of nuclear proliferation, a large number of something. So you might notice that I used it in the sentence. I think the proliferation of social media. I don't know if that actually really makes sense. I wanted to use the word proliferation. It just means a rapid increase in something. I guess the rapid increase of social media use, the proliferation of social media use, um, might make sense more. Okay, using wish and hope. You can read the grammar there. I wish forest fires didn't happen. I wish that the past summer's forest fires were less severe. I really hope that forest fires don't get worse in the future. So I wish this thing didn't happen, or I wish that he would have come to the party. It's like we use it a lot when you're talking about something that's happened in the past and you wanted the situation to be different, but something else to happen. Hope is the future. You hope for uh, something. You hope for something to happen in the future. Okay, a birthday to remember. I'm going to read this story because it's really amazing. When he woke up on the morning of June 23rd, 2018, Pirapat Sompyangjai, whose nickname is Knight, was excited. It was his 17th birthday, and his plans were to practice soccer and then have fun with friends from his team, the Wild Boars. When they fell asleep that night, however, Knight and 11 of his friends felt hunger, thirst, and terror. What happened? To celebrate Knight's birthday, the wild boars explored the Tam Luang cave in northern Thailand. Their coach, Kapol Pantawong, went with them to keep them safe. Usually it is okay to explore the cave in June, but heavy summer rains suddenly started. The cave began filling with water, and the wild boars had to go deeper into the cave to survive. They were trapped. When the boys did not come home that evening, their parents became worried. They found the boys' bicycles, bags, and shoes outside the cave and raised the alarm. Soon the story became big news around the world. Volunteers from many countries traveled to Thailand to help. Inside the cave, the situation was not good. They had a little water, but almost no food. They did not know that people were looking for them. They did not even know what day it was or how long they had been trapped. Coach Chantawong tried to help the boys. He let them eat his share of the food and he taught them how to meditate so they would feel less worried. He also told them to lie still in order to use less oxygen. At last, there was good news on July 2nd, when 3 divers found the team alive. Around the world, people were happy to learn of their discovery. Now that divers knew the boys' location, they could bring them food, air, and medicine. They could bring food, air, and medicine to them. However, the situation was not safe. The cave was full of water, the boys could not swim, and they were far from the cave entrance. More heavy rains were expected, and the rescuers came up with a dangerous, desperate plan. First, they put diving equipment on the boys. Some divers then tied themselves to the boys and helped them swim to a dry part of the cave. Finally, more than 100 helpers took turns carrying the boys to the cave's entrance. The plan was very dangerous, and sadly, diver Saman Kunan died while rescuing the boys. However, despite the danger, all of the wild boars, including Coach Tantawong, were out of the cave and being checked by doctors by July 10th. At last, after 17 days in the cave, they were all safe. Trapped in a situation or place with no way to get out. Raise the alarm, tell people about a dangerous situation. Volunteers, people who work or help without getting paid. Meditate, think and breathe in a calm, relaxed way. So after I read this, I looked up the story because I remember hearing about this many years ago. And there's a great documentary about it on YouTube. And it's really just frightening to be in that situation and to survive for 17 days in a cave is really incredible. And one thing they said in the video, well, I don't want to give it away, but the way they got them through was very interesting because the boys couldn't swim, and being in the cave, diving in that water, they had to go like I think a couple kilometers, and it took hours to go through because the cave passages were so small. And if you get too excited or freak out, you're going to use a lot of oxygen, and you can also get trapped and tangled, and you can die. So they had to alter the boys' state of consciousness so that they wouldn't be too afraid when they went through. So it's a very interesting documentary to watch. Okay. What would you do in these situations? An earthquake traps 17 children in a building. Do you help dig them out? Yes, but I would make sure I have help. I want someone experienced with disasters to tell me the best way to rescue the children. Yeah, I would do everything I could to help them, but I would also want someone maybe who's a bit more knowledgeable, because what if I do something and it causes more problems? That can always be an issue. Okay, there is a video about the um, plane crashing on the Hudson River in New York. And I'm just going to answer these questions here, and that will be it. Car crashes are much more common and dangerous than airplane crashes. Why do you think plane crashes always make the news, but car crashes rarely do? Airplane crashes make the news because they are horrific. Yes, car accidents are tragic, but when a tin can drops out of the sky, killing 200 plus people, it has more of an impact on, I think, people's perception of safety and danger and everything. Okay, tin can, I just use that. That's kind of an idiomatic way to talk about an airplane. Tin can, you could say tin can, because it's kind of like that. Like everyone's just squished into this, metal thing that's flying through the air. It has more of an impact. I'm just going to say that it has more of an impact because it's in a way just when you hear something like that on the news, it's very jarring. Like it really shocks you, and it's also it's a bit irrational to be afraid of flying, as everyone says, because so many planes fly and there's very few crashes, whereas there's car crashes every day. But airplane crashes are really, really just devastating, and it's really shocking when you hear about them. Okay, Chelsea Sully Sullenberger was the pilot of U.S. Airways Flight 1549. Many people called him a hero for landing the plane safely, but Sully himself said he was not a hero and just doing his job. Do you think he was a hero? Why? He was a hero because, although landing a plane on the river may be part of his job, it shows an extra level of skill and commitment. Saving a human life is an heroic act, and you might think "an" is not appropriate to use there, but it is. You can look it up. An heroic act. You can flip burgers at McDonald's as part of your job, but if you save a customer who is choking, it is heroic. So basically, my point is if you save someone's life, it's heroic. Uh, if that's, you're doing your job and it's not like the first thing, the first expectation for you in your job. If your job doesn't say, like, here are your three duties, save someone's life, blah, 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 other things, then when you do save someone's life, you're kind of going above and beyond. You're doing more. Okay, movies about survival are popular. For example, there is a movie about Captain Sully, and a movie is going to be made about the rescue of the boys from Tam Luang Cave. Do you think people should use stories for entertainment? Why? There is no problem using these stories for entertainment. However, I don't find these types of movies very interesting. That's all. I just I think documentaries about it are interesting, but movies, I don't really need to see the Hollywood portrayal of it. Okay, that's it. So that's my little uh, run through of the chapter. And I hope you can try this yourself and listen to the audio, watch the videos, and also remember to always practice speaking, even if it's just by yourself. It's very helpful to just practice speaking English if you want to get better. There you go. Enjoy.